14,102. The reason why performers go to waterfalls to practice. Question: I would like to ask a question regarding waterfalls and sound. A waterfall is a place where pansori performers, Korean traditional singers, come to practice, seeking to master their voice dukium by overcoming the roar of falling water. Mentor, you mentioned that during your 17 years of ascetic practice at Mount Sinbul, you maintained complete silence. I am curious if this silence meant you did not make any sound at all. Furthermore, if that was the case, the continuous roar of the Hongriyu waterfall must have created endless sound waves throughout the day. How were you able to simply listen to it continuously? Thank you.
It comes down to how broadly we view a waterfall. The refined energy Zhongyi of the mountain flows down through every single valley. Each valley carries a different type of mountain energy. A waterfall originates from these valleys. Water is the very element that carries all this mountain energy as it flows down. Therefore, depending on the scale of the waterfall, the sound waves and wave energy Pajang it creates are entirely different. Some waterfalls are exceptionally long, some have massive water volume, while others have smaller volumes and produce subtle, delicate wave energy. Just as every human has unique fingerprints, every waterfall has a completely different environment. Not a single one is identical. Why? Because the natural energy of every mountain, river, and valley is unique. That is why geography takes shape the way it does, driving the movement of water within it. Depending on the density and mass of that environment, some people receive energy there to develop their vocal strength, while others pray to make a wish and receive spiritual power. There are countless things people do under a waterfall. Even with prayer, the wave energy varies depending on how one prays, and people utilize these qualities in many ways. That is why during a shamanic ritual there are those who can only perform properly under a waterfall, while for others, going to a waterfall prevents the ritual from working at all. The wave energy is entirely different. Shamans with higher energy mass go to the waterfall and beat their instruments. Beating these instruments is referred to as beating the gojang. Gojang refers to instruments used to disperse or gather wave energy, such as drums, janggu hourglass drum, tolwan gwari small gong, and jing large gong, depending on how many types are brought along. Whether one plays the gojang well or poorly determines whether the mountain spirit sanshin will descend or not. These techniques are called artistic skills. Depending on the skill level of a disciple, they can move different wave energies, summon different deities, and fulfill different roles. All of this varies, just like fingerprints. No two people play the gojang in the exact same way because their internal quality is different. When they harmonize together, it becomes a masterpiece. When several gojang come together in harmony, it creates a magnificent work. Doing this under a waterfall helps them master and align these energies. When musicians try to hit extremely high notes they're aiming to break through the waterfall. They must pull out a sound that pierces through the sound barrier of the waterfall, and certain disciples are tasked with doing just that. Why? What is the fundamental purpose of traditional singing change? People do not realize this yet, but it is to deliver a message. Traditional singers and cultural artists are all messengers. The only difference lies in what message they convey and how they convey it. When a soprano like Sumijo sings, people call it the voice of God. That is because she was given a physical vehicle with such distinct and exceptional qualities. Depending on what message is delivered through it, one can be held in high esteem or looked down upon. Ultimately, everyone in the culture sector is a messenger. Our changed traditional vocal art culture has not yet been introduced to the world. It is a culture that remains unknown globally. However, moving forward, this changed culture will create a massive sensation. We must preserve our change culture well. We need to preserve it and embed into it the message that we intend to deliver to human society. Furthermore, the dance moves of Korean people, the descendants of heaven, are truly the dances of angels. These dance movements and music have rarely been presented to the world on a grand scale yet. This is something destined to be revealed to the world in the future. What kind of message will we embed and convey to the world moving forward? In truth, this requires immense research, yet no one is researching it right now. Now, regarding what message to put into change, you can simply use AI to create that message. You no longer need to go looking for composers. That era is over. Creating music and lyrics through traditional means is now considered low-level work. Now, you can go into AI and say, I really like these words. Where can you find good words? They are all in Youngbub, the righteous law. Gather them. Suppose you gathered a lot without realizing it, and it turns out to be 5 minutes long. If you ask, can it be 5 minutes long? It will make a 5-minute piece for you. You gather good words, take them to AI, and say you want to make music out of it, and it will start composing the music. I told you to form teams to research these things. Create groups of 3, or if you can manage it, groups of 5. If a group gets as large as 10 people, like a tree with many branches that constantly sways in the wind, you will spend all your time fighting. That is why I advised you to form harmonious 3-person groups, consult with one another, and let AI be your mentor as you research. Why? Because all the teachings beyond are already provided. You can say, we would like to create something like this. This seems essential for society. Then, select the right terms, read through them, and if it sounds wonderful, that becomes your lyrics. Once you have the lyrics, tell AI you want to set them to music. Working together with AI, everything comes out. Create it. Make the music, and if there are 3 of you, create a YouTube channel and continuously upload what you make. This will become an incredible asset and content in the future. There is so much to do, so why aren't you doing it when I am telling you to? I told you to use everything of mine, so why aren't you doing it? If you organize and summarize the teachings I have delivered, turn them into music, and upload them continuously, you can later turn them into Change or Sijo traditional poetry. If you ask AI to convert it into Sijo, even if you don't know how, it will convert it all for you. You listen to it, it sounds great, so you post it on YouTube. This builds up over time into a library of content. You need to start doing this now. If you enjoy doing this for about 3 years, you will suddenly realize, wow, look at how much content I have built up. Since you are the ones who produce the lyrics and music, just upload it. Then you will become true pioneers in the cultural world. Why can't you do it? These are the kinds of things you should be doing. When doing such things, if you want to do well but struggle, people tell you to go pray under a waterfall. Even with the sound of roaring water, prayer is done through quantum energy regardless of the water, so it can naturally reach the heavens. Even if a mountain blocks the way, it penetrates right through it. The energy of prayer can generate an immense wave impact. It varies depending on its quality and density. Why? When we focus our minds and speak in front of a waterfall during prayer, other people might not hear us well. However, regardless of the sound of the waterfall, that energy breaks through and reaches nature. That is why when there is something difficult to say in front of others, people go to a waterfall and speak at the top of their lungs. If you want to curse to your heart's content, go to a powerful waterfall and curse away. That actually makes you feel relieved. And then, you steal a glance at Father God. Earlier you asked about silence. I said I didn't speak to people, but I confronted Father fiercely for a whole week. I stopped eating, didn't put a drop of water in my mouth, and fought with Father. I said I didn't speak to people. I yelled under a roaring waterfall, God, if you son of a bitch exist, come down right now. During the week I did that, not a single person walked up to the waterfall. God, if you son of a bitch exist, come down. Buddha, if you exist, come here. All you spirits, crawl down here right now. You made the world like this and expect me to live on this earth? I challenged and fought furiously. Since I was 4 years old, I was abandoned by the world and grew up as an orphan. I closed my school books in the 2nd grade of elementary school. From age 6, I was a shoeshine and newspaper boy, selling newspapers and chewing gum to survive. Even living in an orphanage, I rarely ate their meals because I ran away at 3:30 in the morning. That is how I grew up, learning about the world from its darkest and harshest corners. I realized later during my ascetic practice that I was put through all those hardships to understand the world. I went into the mountains to die, not to practice. Only later did I realize that this itself was my practice. At that time, I fought relentlessly with God. If there is anyone in this world who fought like I did, step forward. I'd like to have a match. I literally yelled for God, that son of a bitch, to show himself. I figured if I cursed and attacked him, since God is omnipotent and so powerful, he would appear to strike me down for cursing him. I was telling him to come out if he existed. He didn't come out. Why didn't I speak to people? What I realized after going into the mountains to die was just how foolish I had been and how I had been insisting on my own views to others despite my ignorance. I realized that what I thought I knew was just my own perspective, not the truth of the world. After reaching a point where I went into hiding to end my life, I realized how foolish I was to think I was special, turning my back on the world to die alone. Realizing this, I couldn't die. Instead, I dropped to my knees and began picking up trash. Yet, when things still wouldn't resolve, I went to the waterfall at night, not during the day, and fought God, calling him out. Yes, there were times like that during my practice. As I share these stories from my practice little by little, people become curious and want to ask more. There are endlessly many stories to tell if I were to truly unleash them. So many extraordinary events that occurred during my practice that a time will surely come when I lay them all out. So, nature did not make only me go through this kind of practice and hardship. All the descendants of Heaven Cheonsan born in Korea have been put through practice and training. Because everyone was raised with different talents, one person was trained this way and another that way, 100% of the descendants of heaven are practitioners. What happens if a practitioner complains and harbors discontent? It means they have abandoned their practice. To complain and harbor discontent just because things are hard and difficult means your practice has come to an end. A true practitioner remains silent. Whatever environment they observe or are given, they must study it. A practitioner must never complain or harbor discontent. You can keep complaining if you want, but it will only make your life harder. Then, after going through all the suffering, you will realize one more thing. In this way, all of you born in Korea as descendants of heaven are leaders of Hongjik Ingen broadly benefiting humanity. And your entire lives have been a process of spiritual practice. Because people didn't realize this was their study, they kept complaining, blaming others and blaming circumstances when they lacked the capacity to resolve their difficulties. As a result, everyone has ended up in a difficult state today. From now on, we must understand step by step how precious and grateful nature truly is. That is why I am teaching you this. Even the severe hardships imposed on me had a purpose, aimed at giving me a grand education in the end. Having completed this study, I became deeply grateful to Father. I emerged with the resolve to dedicate my body to Father with all my soul and spend the rest of my living days devoted entirely to doing Father's work. Therefore, to all the disciples studying here together, I will share everything I have attained and give you all this energy. Let us work together so that we can make Korea the best country in the world to live in. Let us make the effort.